Some foods have been linked to cancer, and yet most people have no idea. Peanuts are seen as a harmless snack if you don't have a peanut allergy, or even healthy. They're mostly healthy fats if you're just eating the peanuts without sugar added. Pretty benign, right? But some fungi that grow on peanuts produce toxins called aflatoxins. And a specific kind, aflatoxin B1, is one of the most potent carcinogens in nature. In fact, it's classified by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the IARC, as a group 1 human carcinogen, meaning we have sufficient evidence to say it can cause cancer. The risk is especially clear for liver and gallbladder cancer. And people who already have a liver condition like hepatitis, they are even more prone. Worldwide, between 5 and 28% of all liver cancers can be attributed to aflatoxin exposure. Now, the risk varies enormously depending where you live. In regulated markets like the United States, the FDA actually tests for aflatoxin in peanuts and peanut butters. So if you're buying major brands and avoiding peanuts that look off, moldy, discolored, or shriveled, as recommended by the National Cancer Institute, then contamination is very unlikely. It's much more common in developing countries. Other foods with similar issues of aflatoxin contamination include corn and some spices. Okay, what about vegetables? Vegetables lower risk of cancer, right? Well, except if they're pickled. Then the signal flips. Meta-analyses have found a 15% higher risk of stomach cancer for each 40 grams a day of pickled vegetables. In all likelihood, this is because of the high salt content in pickles, because we see a similar relationship between a diet high in salt and stomach cancer. And fish, which most people see as a healthier alternative, and for the most part it is, but it depends how it's prepared and sold. Salted fish, like codfish, sold in some markets, is linked to higher risk of nasopharyngeal cancer. They've even seen this link with miso, which is a soup, it's a fermented food. Everything would seem to indicate it's a healthy food, but it's got a lot of salt. So you want to make your own miso and avoid most commercial products. A lot of these links are seen especially in Asian populations because that's where a lot of these foods are eaten more often. The way this works is excess salt damages the stomach lining over time, making it more vulnerable to H. pylori, a bacteria we have in our stomach. Obviously, the amount matters, as always, so for occasional intake, we see low or even no risk, and then the risk gradually rises with frequency of intake. Okay, how many people avoid heavy liquor and have some wine instead, especially red wine? It's seen as a sophisticated drink, it's light, it even has a health halo for some people. But the problem is the alcohol itself. Alcohol is a carcinogen. And so even though red wine has a lower alcohol content than some forms of liquor like Scotch, for example, at the end of the day, it's the overall amount and the individual susceptibility that matters. Recent studies report essentially a linear relationship between alcohol intake and risk of cancer. So for occasional intake, we see low risk, especially if you don't have a lot of genetic susceptibility. And then as the intake goes up, risk goes up. Okay, what if we just skip the alcohol altogether and drink something healthier, like a cup of coffee? Coffee is indeed much healthier. In fact, most of the data for coffee shows lower risks of cancer, especially liver and endometrial cancer. But in some circumstances, coffee can raise risk of cancer, specifically oral and throat cancer. And that's if we drink it very hot, over 65 degrees centigrade. Even tea, which no one suspects is linked to cancer, has shown this exact same relationship when it's drunk very hot, which some people do. So it's less about the composition of the drink itself in this case, and more about the temperature of the drink that can damage the epithelium of the oral cavity and the throat and lead to cancer formation in the long run. Okay, here's a couple foods where risk is less well established in research, but there's a plausible relationship and caution is still recommended. Acrylamide. So this pertains to carby foods that are cooked at very high temperatures, like French fries or burnt toast. So you want to avoid deep frying as a staple of your diet, especially industrial, and also anything that's overcooked or burnt. Meats generally seen as healthier, like poultry or fish, they can also cause problems if they're cooked at very high temperature to the point of charring. Surveys have shown 80% of Americans are not aware of this link between over-grilled, charred meats and cancer. But charring animal flesh causes the protein inside to react with other components, creating carcinogens like HCAs or heterocyclic amines. And when the fat and the juices from the meat drip down below onto the flames, that causes smoke to rise, and that can cause another carcinogen, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, to deposit on the surface of the food. So some tips to avoid this include marinating your meats before grilling. This can powerfully reduce carcinogen formation because of the antioxidants present in the herbs and spices in the marinade. Rosemary, garlic, and turmeric are especially potent. You want to avoid marinades with a lot of added sugars, which makes it worse. You want to favor marinades with citrus or vinegar. The low pH in those marinades also helps prevent formation of carcinogens. Another hack is to pre-cook large cuts of meat on the stove or in the oven and then finish them on the grill. So this reduces the exposure time to the flames, which minimizes the formation of carcinogens. Cooking at lower temperatures is another good strategy, and also choosing leaner cuts or trimming the visible fat before grilling. This can reduce the flare-ups, the smoke, and the charring. And as a last resort, you can cut off any charred bits that make it onto your plate. What about dairy? Is it true that dairy causes cancer? We went over that question in this previous video, so check it out, and I'll see you in there.